everyone for tuning in. Hi, Mom. Thanks for coming. My mom is Ariella. It was really an amazing honor to be part of the program like 6 years ago, and I gained so much from it. And then returning, and I'm not as involved today, but I really appreciate you keeping this connection. And it's just really amazing program. So thanks, guys, for tuning in. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna first talk, practically speaking, about the Seder plate, like real, real world, what has to go on it. There's so many opinions on like different things you can put in the same spot, different types of vegetables, different types of this and that. So I'm just gonna go through and give some practical tips on like what is the most common customs, so you guys know how to set up your Seder plates. And then we're going to go deeper into what each thing represents, because really everything on the Seder plate is there for a reason, and it all represents something. The Seder plate is the main prop of the Pesach Seder. I thought of an analogy. So obviously on Pesach, we are telling the story of Exodus from Egypt. And we're not just supposed to tell the story, we're supposed to relive it and experience it. So when we're at a theater and when we're watching a play, so the actors are telling a story by living it, right? Like they're living it, they're experiencing it. And through that, we're able to really like, get the essence of the story. So when we're telling the story of Passover to experience it, hi, Dad. We are acting the story. And just how actors on a stage have props and lighting and sound, so we also have props to help us act, to help us relive the story. And our number one prop for the whole Pesach Seder is the plate. The plate has everything. So hopefully by the end of the class, we'll be able to summarize and understand why that is. So first, just the practical things. So, and also I'm gonna send you guys a chart that summarizes what I just said so that you will be able to keep it. So, number one, we have the vegetable, a karpas. So what type of vegetable, what type of vegetable is it? So it's typically parsley, potato, or onion. Our family custom is to use celery, so I'm holding a celery. But before I go on, I actually just wanted to make this more interactive. So everyone open your chat and, oh, you're so sweet. Open your chat and just write one word. What is the first thing you think of when you think of the Seder plate? Bitter herbs. Anyone else? Anyone else want, like, what comes, like, I think of the egg.
Me too.
They're distinct for my mom.
Maror.
Ken.
It's so hard to find.
Ken, Ima, do you see the chat box? So then everyone can remember everything. Okay, this is great. So we're gonna continue. So Shankbone, okay, so you guys said everything. There's not like one thing. That's great. Everyone has like a certain thing that they connect to. So we'll see if what we connect to changes after we learn about what each thing represents. So we said karpas is the vegetable. Next is matzah, and we use 3 matzahs. I'm gonna tell why later. The matzahs are not part of the actual plate. They go beside the plate, above the plate. Not like literally on top, but like on the table, on top of the plate. And the plate itself is situated beside the head of the household, because he's like the one responsible, right, for telling the story. He's the main actor, right? He's the main guy. So he gets this plate as his prop. Okay, next we have maror. So here I have maror. This is horseradish roots. It's super bitter. People just like peel it and cut it into little pieces, and then they can eat it and use it for the sandwich that later. So this is maror. There's two bitter herbs. So one of them is maror, and the other one, is usually used as is lettuce. So these are your bitter herbs. Next is charoset, which we all know. Charoset is the most delicious sweet one of all. And then we have two cooked dishes. One cooked dish is the shank bone. And the other cooked dish is this. So,
hard to come by this year. Hold on to this.
Sorry.
So those are hard to come by this year. You gotta hold on to this.
Yeah, these are worth a lot. I actually got it from my neighbor.
Did she ask you to bring it back? She's like, bring it back when you're done.
It's worth $1 million. So first of all, the matzah. Why do we have 3 matzahs? So there's 2 reasons. The first reason is because we're going to break one of them. And so we need the remaining 2 in order to make hamotzi, right? When we do a bracha every Shabbat, we have 2 full challahs, and it's important that they're whole and not like you can't like eat half of it before, have to like, oh no, keep that. That's for the bracha. So same with matzah, we have 2 full matzahs, and then one that we break, that the half goes to the afikoman, and we have to like look for it. So that's why we have 3. It also represents the 3 types of people in Am Yisrael. We have Leviim, Kohanim, and Israel. So it's like uniting all of the people of Israel and all of our different roles as Jews, and also as a connection to that from the time of the temple. So next is a shank bone. I do not have a shank bone to show you because I did not get my shank bone yet. So the shank bone is one of the 2 cooked things that need to be on the Seder plate, the other one being the hard-boiled egg. So the shank bone represents a sacrifice that was brought to the temple, but it's not just any like sacrifice like the Pesach offering. It's actually the Jews in Egypt, the night before they left Egypt, they used the blood from this sacrifice on their doorposts so that Hashem would skip over them in Makat HaBechorot, and the last plague, the death of the firstborn. So this is part of the essence of Pesach. This is the name Pesach. Hashem Pesach, Hashem skipped over. So the sign for Hashem to skip over was from the blood of the offering that's called the Pesach offering that was continued in the time of Beit HaMikdash. And to remember this offering and how Hashem skipped over us on that first time in Egypt, we have the shank bone. And why shank bone? Like, why not just like any animal? Why not like the shank bone? What's the shank bone? It's the forearm. It's called a zroa in Hebrew. So it's the zroa because the arm bone, it alludes to the verse in the Haggadah that Hashem took Bnei Israel out of Egypt with an outstretched arm. So that is why specifically the shank bone is used and not any other bone, and it's a lamb because that's the lamb that they used for the sacrifice in Egypt. So next is the egg. So the egg also represents a meat offering that was brought to the temple for the holiday. So the Pesach sacrifice is the zroa, the shank bone. But the holiday sacrifice that was given for all Shalosh Regalim, Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot, is represented by the egg. Now, if you don't have an egg because you live in Israel, it can be any cooked, any cooked thing really. But why is there a custom to use an egg? Like, egg is not like meat at all. Like both of these offerings back in the Beit HaMikdash and the temple times were the meat offering. So why, okay, the shank bone, I get it, it's meat, but why egg? So does anyone have anything that comes to mind, why an egg, that they want to type or share? You can turn on your mic. This is interactive, yeah?
Because it's a symbol of life. Like it's a being in its like most, I can't think of the word, but its most basic form.
I like it, symbol of life.
On a
Right.
similar note, something like it represents potential.
That's good. I really want to tie in all these ideas. It's great. Anyone else? Why an egg?
Kind of similar to what they're saying, and I think I might be getting confused with Easter, but it's kind of like rebirth, and we were also kind of born as a nation, and I don't know.
So there's 3 reasons why an egg, and one of the reasons really ties in everything that you guys said. I really loved it. So the first reason is that the egg actually represents mourning, since, like you said, it's round, so it's the circle of life, and part of the circle of life is death, and hence mourning. And so why do we need a reminder of mourning? Because we're mourning the fact that we can't do this holiday offering the way that it was meant to be done in times of the temple. So we're mourning the destruction of the temple. And it's also why we, in general, Pesach is the same day of the week as Tisha B'Av, which is the day that we mourn, that we fast. It's the fast day for mourning the destruction of the temple. That's another aspect of mourning that connects to the egg. But there's this dual meaning in that it also represents our hope and prayer for the future, right? When a chicken lays an egg, the egg is complete. Like, we can use it and make scrambled eggs, and it's done. But it can also be potential, like Shira said. It can also, if we let it, be with its mummy hen, it can also hatch into a chicken. So it's meant to teach us that even if something seems complete, it's not, and something more can develop and hatch from it. And what we can learn for that, for ourselves on a personal level, is that even if we do the work and conquer our own Egypt in this time in our life, which is very easy for us to think about what is our Egypt in this time of our life. We're in a really difficult time. But even if we manage to conquer Egypt, today's freedom is tomorrow's Egypt. So we always need to be growing, and we always need to be, just how we grow, we like children like outgrow their clothes. So like we also need to grow in what freedom feels like every Pesach Seder. Like, the freedom that we experienced this year should be higher than the freedom we experienced last year, and so on and so forth, B'ezrat Hashem, forever. So also in Yetziat Mitzrayim, like it seemed like when the Jews left Egypt, that's it, we're free, we're not slaves anymore. Like, just like the egg, it's the end. Like, yeah, like scrambled eggs, it's done. But that was just the beginning of Geulah, the final redemption of the Jewish people. So that also connects to rebirth that someone said. And here Shira wrote, an egg is also liquid and solid at the same time. That is cool, but also ties into what you're saying about these dualities. Yeah, thank you, dualities. That's the word that I was trying to say. Great, so that is the egg. Oops, it just cracked. I didn't put it down gentle enough. It wasn't a hard-boiled one. Okay. All right, next we have the maror and the chazeret. That's the bitter herbs we said is the romaine lettuce and the horseradish. Again, like, people have other customs. I'm just giving you guys like the easiest, most common like stuff that people do to make it easy, in case you were deliberating. So we all know that the horseradish is the bitterness of slavery of our forefathers in Egypt. But why do we use lettuce? Because lettuce for me is not bitter. Lettuce is my favorite food. My mom can prove it. Anyone want to type, why do we use lettuce? Why is lettuce a bitter herb? Anyone can think of more bitter things? You could type, you could speak. Anybody? Anybody? Okay, I'll tell you. So the lettuce is not bitter. The truth is that if you leave the lettuce plant to grow, then the stem, the stalk gets like all tall and that turns bitter. So it's just like our enslavement. When Yaakov originally came down to Egypt, Yosef was there and Pharaoh was nice and he let the Jews work and he paid them for their work and like it started off not bitter. But then over time, it eventually became bitter and turned into forced and cruel labor. So that's the lettuce, like how when it first grows, and these, top leaves are not bitter, but then you leave it and it turns bitter. So that's what we should be thinking of with the lettuce. And next is the charoset. So can everyone tell me what they think of when they think of charoset? Like what did we learn what charoset is? Anybody? You know this. The mortar, yes, Tamima. Charoset is the mud used for the bricks. Yeah, like the cement, it's the cement, the mortar. Because we were slaves and we were building and it's like part of the building materials. Okay, so that's true, but that's just the surface level of charoset, and now we're gonna go a little bit deeper. So who knows what is the main ingredient of charoset? Type or say. What's like the main, like if you had to like pick one thing? Nuts, wine or apples? Apples, dates. Okay, you're listing all the ingredients. Okay, keep going. Okay, wine. Listen, all these are ingredients that have to go in it, but like what is the most? What's in it the most? I get like the wine makes it the special flavor and also the nuts the special flavor, but like what's the most? Yes, Rev Ujin. It's the apples. The apples are the main ingredient of the charoset, and apples actually represent the Jewish nation, and not just the Jewish nation, they represent the rebirth of the Jewish people. We're going to talk about it a little bit, and I'm going to tie it back to charoset. Here we go. So there is a there's a pasuk, a verse in Shir Hashirim, the Song of Songs, which was a song written by King Solomon, Melech Shlomo, and he wrote many songs, but this is the song of songs, like the most holy, most important one. It's in our Tanakh, and it says a verse there, under the apple tree I aroused you. There your mother was in travail with you. There she who bore you was in travail. So in order to understand what's going on here, first let's talk about what Shir Hashirim is and what is written there, and then what's with the apples. So Shir Hashirim is an allegory of the love between the one who bestows, Hashem, and one who receives, Am Yisrael. It's a metaphor for the relationship between Hashem and Israel, and it's written in terms of the love for a man to a woman. So since in Judaism, the intimacy between a man and the woman has the potential to be the most holy thing, so too the relationship between Hashem and Am Yisrael, when is the most holy thing, when it's in a place of, when it's coming from a place of ahavat Hashem, like loving Hashem. Having a relationship of Hashem from a place of love is the highest level, more than fear, more than I'm doing this because I have to, like more than everything. Now, everything I'm saying, it seems like in the air, but this is all part of what charoset is coming to teach us, and we're going to tie it back in. So it's a custom to read Shir Hashirim on Shabbat of Chol HaMoed Pesach, because it also says in Shir Shirim, with my mighty steeds who battled Pharaoh's riders, I revealed that you are my beloved. So it speaks of the redemption of the people from Egypt. And it's also a custom to read Shir Shirim every Erev Shabbat on Friday night. There are also a lot of phrases in Lecha Dodi, which we know from Kabbalat Shabbat, that are from Shir HaShirim, and we recite Lecha Dodi every week. So I'm just going to summarize for you. There's a story in Shir HaShirim, a story of a maiden and a king. And it's like this beautiful woman, and she gets engaged to the king. And it's all like rosy and flowers and maksim and amazing. And then there's this big wedding, and you know, it's so exciting, and the love and the sparks, and it's just like, it really goes into all these details. And then soon after the wedding, she betrays him and she goes off. But the king's love towards her is so strong that he always looks after her, and he always like watches her and protects her and makes sure she's okay. So this kind of sounds familiar, right? The Jewish people, the time of Exodus from Egypt, and all of the signs, like all of the plagues and the splitting of the sea, that's our engagement to Hashem. Those are like, you know, the sparks, the excitement, and Hashem is like showing us what he got. He's getting us excited. He's, you know, he's like trying to build the relationship. The wedding is when we receive the Torah under Mount Sinai. The Torah is like the Ketubah, and Mount Sinai is the Chuppah. So that's the wedding. And what happens right after the wedding? We cheat on Hashem. We do idolatry. We build that golden calf, Chet HaEgel. Yet, you know, and we keep, you know, cheating on Hashem and not being loyal to him in so many different senses of the word. Yet Hashem always protects us and looks after us, even when we're in galut, when we're in exile, you know, spread across the world. And we even see that today, that the safest place in the world today regarding coronavirus is Israel. So it's clear that Hashem is really protecting us. So just like Shabbat, when we say Lecha Dodi, and some people say Shir Shirim every Friday night, on Pesach we retell the story of Hashem taking us out of Egypt, and we remember, like I said at the beginning, it's not just about telling, it's about experiencing. So we're experiencing those butterflies at our engagement, leading up to the wedding, and although we almost immediately cheated on Hashem, we realize that this is a special and unique relationship, and he is always there watching over us and caring for us no matter what we do. So that's Shir HaShirim and the connection to Pesach. But what is with the apples and the charoset? Can we just do a hands up or like a wave that everyone's with me? And it's like clear, we're following. Yeah. Oh, wow, you can actually do things. That's good. Okay, great. If you have any questions along the way, just type and I'll like look at it while I'm talking. Hi, Matan. That's my brother. So now we understand Shir HaShirim, but like what's with the apples? What's with the charoset? So I wrote something, and I'm gonna read it to you. So on one hand, charoset corresponds to the clay of servitude. Again, we have this dualism. On the other hand, it evokes the apple trees, where the birth and miraculous upbringing of the next generation took place. So when the women, basically when we were slaves in Egypt, it wasn't like, you know, the men would go out to work every day and then they would come home at 5 p.m. Like this wasn't 9 to 5. They didn't really live at home. They were like off, far away working. But the women had the foresight of redemption to entice them and seduce them to keep coming home and to be intimate with them, because they had the foresight of redemption. They knew that it was important to keep the Jewish nation going. And this happened under the apple trees. The wives would take the men under the apple trees, and then they would go back there to give birth. And there were all these midrashim, like stories about miracles that would happen under the apple trees where Hashem would protect these babies. Because remember, there's this decree in Egypt that all Jewish baby boys should be thrown in the Nile, and like they were killing us, and it was horrible. And And so how would these babies survive? So there are all these miracles of the angels protecting the babies and taking them away and then bringing them back at the right moment so they would survive. So in the lowest of the low, in the time of slavery, we're already seeing all these miracles that's allowing for the continuation of the Jewish people. So the holiday of Passover doesn't just celebrate our freedom from oppression. So what are we celebrating? The freedom we achieved through the Exodus on Passover transformed the essential nature of the Jewish people. We acquired the nature of free people to the point that in our essence, we are free. And no one has the ability to subjugate our essential selves again. Thus, despite subsequent oppression, enslavement, and torture, the fundamental nature of the Jewish people remains free. This sustains us even through the harshest parts of exiles. Our enemies may have attempted to subjugate our physical bodies, but they no longer have the ability to subjugate our spirit. This is the inner meaning of the dual symbolism of the Charoset. Yes, there is clay, and we are forced to make bricks, but there are also miracles happening, and God's salvation is already taking shape under the apple trees. And this also explains why there's no quota, like there's no amount of Charoset that one must consume. Like for all the other things, like the bitter herbs and the matzah and the wine, like you need to eat a certain amount. Like to the milliliter, people measure their wine cups, but it doesn't say how much Charoset you need to eat. So this corresponds to the essential character of the Jewish nation, which will forever remain free. So although, everything else comes in measurements, this essential freedom is infinite, immeasurable, and uncontainable. So there is Charoset. Next, we have...
Sorry, Liya, that's very, very beautiful. I never heard an explanation like that. I love it. Just also thinking about, as you're speaking, it's sweet, right? I mean, if it really was to give us an experience of the bitterness of slavery only, in other words, if there wasn't some other facet to it, it would have been some other kind of sticky, kind of gooky stuff to represent the mortar. I don't know. It's like the first thing that came to mind is peanut butter, but
yeah, that's true. That's a great
Ashkenazim,
point.
that wouldn't work. But something like that. I don't know. Like, but it has to be bitter, But the sweetness of the Charoset is such a integral part of it, even though it represents something that is such a negative image, right? So it's very beautiful the way you're able to kind of draw out the sweetness that we see.
Yeah, thanks. That's such a good point, and that's also why we dip all the bitter things in the Charoset throughout the Seder, because we're bringing in that freedom, that relationship to Hashem, that rebirth of the Jewish people into all of the bitter things, bitter herbs. And so yeah, that's a really great point. Does anyone else have thoughts?
I just love all of this. I like so many creative things. I'm taking so many notes. This is great.
Thanks, Shira. Thanks. So the last thing is the karpas, and I wanted to end with the karpas. Remember, this is the karpas, it's the celery. So in the Haggadah, the first thing we do is out of all the things we eat and all the things we do, the first one is the karpas. But in this class, I wanted to speak about it last. So does anyone have an idea, why a vegetable? Why do we need a vegetable? Why not a fruit? Why not a nut? I don't know, why a vegetable at the Seder plate? Anyone? You can type, you can talk.
Something to do with it ground?
From the University of Hebrew University in Jerusalem that Jacob got me onto. She's talking about the Seder plate, and she's coming up with some really
Oh wait, I can't hear. Was that Tamima? Your mic. Now we hear you.
I was saying maybe it has something to do with it coming from the ground. It starts in the ground.
The ground. I like it. Yeah, something grounding about it. Okay.
And it develops into something bigger and more.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else have ideas? Why do we have a vegetable on the Seder plate? It adds color. Okay.
Is it because it's less yummy?
It's less yummy than what?
Fruit? Yummy fruit?
Less yummy than yummy fruit.
Uh-huh.
I actually like that point.
Really?
So I'm gonna say, just like we did with charoset, like the surface level explanation and then a deeper idea. So the word karpas, which is this vegetable, again, it could be this, it could be parsley, potato, or onion. Okay, it's just my family uses celery, that's our custom. So karpas. So the first three letters can spell parech, which means hard labor, which is the back-breaking work that the Jews did in Egypt. And then there's the letter samech, which is 60 in Gematria, which represents the 600,000 Jewish men over the age of 20 that were slaves in Egypt. So that is the surface level explanation. Another surface level explanation is, what do we do with the vegetable? We dip it into
Salt water.
yes, we dip it into salt water. So we are taught that the salt water represents the tears and sweat of enslavement. And again, like all things in life and in Judaism, we have this dualism. So it's not just the tears and sweat of enslavement, it's also the freshness, the karpas. Like we said, the karpas is avodat, is like parech, right? The hard work. And the salt water is like the tears of enslavement. So that's that side of it. Now the other side of it is the freshness of spring. And the salt water is like the sea. And water represents life. So like I said, we start the Seder with the vegetable. So why specifically the vegetable? So as opposed to a fruit tree, which a fruit tree stands tall. It's a symbol of strength, right? It's high above the ground. A vegetable is on the ground or underground. Sometimes we can't even see it. And as opposed to a fruit tree, where like a fruit is something more luxurious. And like vegetables is a staple food. Like everyone eats vegetables. Animals eat vegetables. And a fruit tree, if one year it doesn't give enough fruit, so it still stands, and perhaps it'll do better the next year. It stays. The fruit tree stays, regardless of its produce. But if you plant a vegetable and it doesn't work, it withers away and dies. Like there's no next time. So when we sit down at the Seder, having in mind that we're supposed to have this spiritual growth experience and experience freedom, we might be feeling like the vegetable. We might be feeling low, like we failed, under the ground, like we didn't produce properly, especially with this time that we're in and everything we're experiencing, everyone in their own challenges in the corona situation. So we start with a vegetable. The Seder is such a holy experience that it can take a little vegetable that was under the ground and put it in the most critical and prominent place of starting the Seder experience. So it's a lesson for us that so too can we bring ourselves to become part of the Seder experience. And with that, I want to bless us all with a wonderful Seder experience, although it is not what any of us originally planned, and it's not going to be what any of us had in mind. And we might come into it feeling basa, like a vegetable, but we can take that and uplift it, just how the Seder takes the vegetable and uplifts it. So B'ezrat Hashem, we will feel that as well. And just to finish, I wanted to offer everyone to type which thing they connect to the most now from the Seder plate, based on what we learned today. And if you have any thoughts you want to share, then please turn on your mic.
Thanks, Liya. That was so great.
Thanks. I'm also gonna attach here I'm gonna post the charts.
That's it.
Thank you. Liya.
You need to slap me.
I did. Sorry. Excuse
You need to slap me down.
me. Okay.
Hi, Helen.
Hi, thank you.
Hey.
Liya, I'm hesitant to have you get off because it's just such a pleasure to listen to you. Your family is a mix of both Sephardi background and Ashkenazi.
Yeah.
Do you hear me?
Yeah, now we hear you better. We
Okay.
heard you and then it got cut off. You
Okay.
were
So
saying
I was
about
just,
my family.
yeah, that your family, if I remember correctly, has you have both a Sephardic side and an Ashkenaz side,
Yes.
correct? So just you told us a little bit about this, but maybe just a little bit more about the Seder plate at your house and any of the interesting customs around the Seder plate or things that you would do at the Seder. At least for myself, growing up, in America and Ashkenazi, we pretty much have a lot of the same kind of symbols and customs as a lot of the other Ashkenazim. But as I've encountered and listened to Sephardim, there's a lot of different customs. Like you talked about the shank bone on the Seder plate. So as far as I understand, that's a Sephardi custom. The Ashkenazim, or at least some of the Ashkenazim, usually use a chicken wing for to illustrate the outstretched arm.
Outstretched arm.
Yeah. Right. So I just was curious if there's any other kind of mixed customs in your family, because it's a mix of Ashkenazim and Sephardim.
So that's a really good point. And to be honest, I'm not sure because I'm not quite sure like what's the Ashkenazi custom and what's the Sephardi custom. I just know that like that's what we do. But once we couldn't find like a shank bone, we did use a chicken. So it really is not black and white. But my mom was telling me before this year that she had a thought. Ima, do you want to share your thought about the Seder plate? Turn on your mic. You just have to press unmute. Nice.
First of all, shalom everyone. And Liya, it was absolutely beautiful, and thank you for sharing. And hopefully this small message that we have will be able to share your beautiful thoughts teaching in our faith. I just wanted to mention a couple of things that I learned. First of all, that about the shank bone again, when Hashem asked us to do the sacrifice and color or paint our doors, this is the symbol of that we use today is as a mezuzah. It's the first time that Hashem asked us to mark our homes, and that's what we're carrying with us up to today. So I just love this idea, and I wanted to share it with you. The other thing is, again, with the coronavirus with us today, just thinking of being at that place again, leaving Egypt. Everything we knew is behind us, the life that we knew yesterday, and we are standing in front of this gushing waters just tomorrow, and we don't know, or we don't have the strength to take the step and walk into those waters. So I'm just thinking that hopefully we have the inner strength as the Jewish people, as we went through so much in our lives, as a nation, to be able to now again step forward and not be afraid of what tomorrow is going to be like. Because Hashem is there, and He strengthens us and He blesses us. And it's hard just to know that we're there for each other, although not in person, but in spirit, and we are always one under Hashem's wing and under His protection.
That's
That's what I
true.
wanted to share.
Thanks, Ima.
Liya was
Anyone else?
supposed to
Beautiful.
land today here.
Yeah, I was
Today,
supposed
this
to land
morning,
in
she was
Toronto
to be
today.
with us. It's hard.
Liya, this was fantastic. This was really, really
Thanks.
good.
It's time to cry. All right, so I tried to upload the chart, but it didn't work. So just send me your email here, and I will make a group email right now and just send you a basic chart with what my recommendations for the Seder plate were that we went through. Thank you to everyone for joining us.
Thank you so much, Liya.
Thank you for Rabbi
Wow.
Owen for
Thank
organizing.
you.
Thank you so much, Liya. This is such a pleasure to hear you and to be inspired by you. And thank you for all of
Pleasure.
the
Thanks.
efforts that you put in and for just opening up your heart and sharing these beautiful ideas with us. This is a very, very beautiful end of the week of a week-long series that we did. And like a lot of other educational organizations, we're trying to recreate ourselves in the midst of this, terrible crisis that we're all going through. And, I think I mentioned this last night, but the learning that we've done together every night has really been the opportunity to take the mar and make it matok, take the bitter and make it sweet, and kind of the image of the mortar, the teeth that you discussed in the apples, I think also encapsulates that there is challenge here, and there is slavery here, there is crisis here, but there is gula, there's something sweet that's awaiting us. And I think coming together and learning Torah together and preparing ourselves spiritually towards Pesach, towards an interpersonal gula, and hopefully a gula for Am Yisrael and the whole world, right? Hopefully this is something that contributes to it. It really feels like on some level it does. And that's because all of us are coming together and sharing and connecting and having this opportunity. So I thank you, Liya. I thank everybody who's come and been a part of this, whether just tonight or throughout the week. It's been so inspiring. And as we go forward, we're keeping this all in mind. This is all brand new. So feel free, anybody, to reach out and to make suggestions, because we're going to be trying to do more of this. And we want to meet everybody where they're at. We want to be there for you guys. We want to, strengthen and connect with everyone where they're at, wherever we can. So please be in touch. Next week on Sunday and Monday, there are 2 more shiurim. Rabbi Grodner's part 3 of the Haggadah will be on Sunday night at 6:30 Israel time, and we're 7 hours difference for those in North America and the East Coast, and then you kind of go back from there. And then I'll be giving the last class before Pesach on Monday night at 8 p.m. because I just can't not be with you guys on Monday nights. It's like, I don't know what to do with myself on a Monday night if I'm not somehow with some people that look like you guys or people that I've seen, at Hebrew. So that'll be Monday at 8 p.m. and that'll be discussing the unique mitzvah of telling a story on Seder night. It's a very beautiful and unique mitzvah. They only get once a year to sit down all together, whoever we're with, and to be able to tell a story together. And there's some very deep and beautiful concepts about why we tell a story and what components it has to have and why it has to have those components. So I look forward to connecting to that with all of you guys. In the meantime, we have Shabbat Gadol, a big Shabbos. My wife always likes to say, after all that Pesach cleaning, we need a big Shabbos. So it should be restful, it should be rejuvenating, and look forward to seeing you guys next week. If we don't see you, I wish everyone Chag Kasher v'Sameach, an emphasis on the Simcha, no matter who we're with, that we should be able to have a truly joyous and inspirational Seder night and really feel something of that inner Geula that we heard so beautifully about last night from Hannah, that inner freedom that we can always experience no matter what's going on in our lives. Good night, everybody. Thank you very, very much. Laila tov, Shabbat Shalom.
Good night. Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Liya. Chag Sameach.